Hi everyone, Corey here from the Knitting All the Blankets podcast, and this is episode 12. It's the first episode of August, and since I've gone to this every other week format, I actually like it a lot. And I think I'm going to keep it. And the reason why is because it gives me more time than just podcasting every week to work on other projects, and so that I actually have something to show you. You know, I'm not a housewife or stay-at-home mom. I do work outside the home. So what little bit of knitting I do get to do during the week sometimes isn't enough to show off for a weekly podcast. For those of you that are new, thanks for stopping by. You can also find me on Ravelry as craftsbycori, and there is a podcast group in Ravelry. I will put the link down in the description below, and my hair is sticking out. Okay. So yeah, Crafts by Corey, all one word on Ravelry. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. Let's see, is there anything administrative I needed to talk about before I get into it? Checking my notes. They're down there on the couch. Nope, let's just get into it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show you is I did work on the mini skein 10 stitch, and I've made quite a bit of progress on it. I honestly don't remember if I told you I had started Twin Mommy Creations Rainbow Rambouillet mini skein set. I'd gone ahead and coned the entire thing together. And yes, that does mean there's knots, and I know some of you are twitching because of this, but I do, for blankets, yeah, they're little knots. I put knots in my work. Oh dear. It's not that big of a deal. So, and I have all my cakes sitting in this lovely rosewood bowl, from yarn bowl from A Darn Good Yarn. I think you guys have seen them advertised on Facebook and all that, and it's just really lovely right now because it's top feeding, and I just have my spare double point sticking out of it. I don't have the yarn going through here because it's not actually a ball. So that's what that looks like. And now let me get the blanket out. I think the last time I had this on the podcast, yeah, there, I had only just put some of the pink on, and I was at this corner. So since then, it's just a little USA turn, progress keeper. So I've done that corner and essentially one whole side. Yeah, didn't get much done in terms of yardage, but that's what it's like with these 10 stitch blankets. It's at first they go very, very quickly, and then the sides just keep getting longer and longer and longer. So yeah, that's where I am with it. And I'm not even through, I don't even think I'm halfway through the pink. So this will be very interesting for me. I'm just going to fold that up. It's not in a project bag anymore. The rest of the mini skeins for it are in my really big Knit Happens bag from Joann's. But for the current, for the as small as the blanket is now, and so for this, I just have it sitting in my pick of the patch autumn themed basket. And with the way I've redone my craft room, I've got cubbies, and this fits long ways. Like if I put this in, then it just fits right in. So that works. And this way, I mean, if I were getting through minis very, very quickly, then yeah, I would carry a lot more with me, but I'm not. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to put that away. And yeah, since and I've got the pattern for the corner right here. I keep it with me. and also a row counter, so I can, when I do sit down to work on it, I usually tend to put at least 100 rows on at a time. So the way I'm keeping track of that, and I'll go more into detail later, but you all know about my mini skein 10 stitch notebook where I keep notes and everything, and I'm going to go into all this in a little bit. So that's the 10 stitch blanket, and I'm really glad I've made progress on that. The next thing is my boneyard shawl, which I have been severely neglecting. I got through the first Peter Pan cupcake yarn ball set, so I've only got 2 of these left now. And let's see, it's the Boneyard Shawl by Stephen West, and it's still on my 24 circular clover circular needles. I do have some Chalgo 32-inch circulars for when this gets too big, but I know this is supposed to be the top, and it just looks, it does not want to hold straight, but let me kind of turn this out a little bit. So based on from where I was working on, I had just done there you go. There's my little houndstooth progress keeper. So I was about right here. And totally, yeah, it's right above this ridge right here. You can see that. That's a ridge, that's a ridge. Because I did not check my notes, I forgot what row I was on, which does matter. Because if you don't do the correct row, you end up giving yourself a ridge. So I have random ridges all over this thing. So this is definitely going to be a unique shawl to me once it is all done. And as you can see, yes, I have gotten the pink tied in. The pink is, nope, the tag is in here. There it is. It's Adrifill. And yes, that is £1, not a dollar. I did buy this in England from the wool yarn shop in Salisbury. Salisbury? Yes. No. Bath. I went to so many yarn stores last time I was in England that I can't remember where some of them were. But yes, this one I found in the clearance bin for £1 at Wool in Bath. So it's a very nice little yarn shop. So I'm slowly working on this, on the pink, and I think it's knitting up very nicely. I mean, the definition of the purl stitches is so nice. And compared to the Peter Pan cupcake, like, this stuff is ridiculously soft. I love it just because of how soft it is. But I'm going to be working on the pink for a while. I mean, that's a pretty hefty ball. But I can tell you, if you have done the Stephen West shawl, you know how every couple of rows, or like every other row, you're doing 4 make ones. So you're increasing every other row by 4 stitches. So I am on row 82. I just have one of these little old-fashioned row counters that I think was in my husband's grandmother's knitting stuff, and I just keep it in the bag. And because I always have this out now, whenever we're in the living room, I keep Knitting Project, the knitting TN stays right there. And I have written down, hey, you actually stopped on this row. This row, row 82, is the next row you need to do. So I'm trying to keep track that way, and hopefully it will stop my random ridges from showing up. And I am still amazed that with as big as it is, that I have not reached 100 rows. I mean, for all I know, I have, just because of the amount of times I've messed up. But, I mean, by my appropriate row count, I'm only on row 82. And the way I keep track of where the ridges go, and I think I showed this last time, is I went ahead and wrote out in increments of 12. That way, when using my little row counter, when I get to that row, because after I reach 96, the pattern is, once I hit ridge on the ridge on row 96 that I need to do, I'm just going to reset this to 0 and essentially start all over. It makes sense to me in order to keep this straight. So, that's what I'm going to do. Use what you got and simplify, right? Here are my lovely 32-inch ChiaoGoo bamboo circulars. They're still fresh in the package. I got these from my friend Anne of Twin Mommy Creations, who is a ChiaoGoo dealer now. Yes, I did buy them. These were not free, which is fine. So when my 24 circulars can't handle the shawl anymore, I will switch over to these. And that is all being kept in my procrastinating bag. Okay, there's that. Eric's blanket. I'm starting to have a love-hate relationship with this blanket. And it has nothing to do with my brother. It's my own fault. So I finished all the cherry red yarn. And I think, and I'll address how many of those total in the finished objects thread. Finished objects video in 2 weeks. So I've got half. This means I have half of his colors knitted. Not total amounts I need, but just half the colors knitted. And so I had the big red heart skeins of royal blue, orange, and white. And I thought, you know, it'd be nice if that was, you know, a little more portable. You know, those, if you do them center pull, those skeins tend to collapse on each other. And it's acrylic, and it's not fun, and blah, blah, blah. So I decided to get out my yarn winder, because I'm nuts. So I decided to cone up the white. I coned all three up. The white, the orange, and the blue. But I decided to work on the white right now. I'm going to try to take this out of the bag so that you can see what it looks like coned up. Oh, that didn't destroy it too badly. This is a nearly full, and this little bit, are a nearly full thing of white acrylic yarn by Red Heart. And, oops, everything's collapsing in the bag. And I found my whitest project bag that they would fit in. And now I have to slowly get this back in here. And I probably just destroyed it. Shoot. Anyways. But when it did go in there, I may have to work with Tiffy and get a wider project bag. But the project bag that it is in is my friend Tiffy, who makes project bags. She's Royalty Designs. This is her reversible project bag. It's cogs right on this side, and then I can flip it over, and it's just a nice neutral color background. That if I didn't want cogs, I could do it. And I can reverse it, but I'm not going to because I've already put everything back. But the drawstring is plain ribbon, which I do need to replace because I'm not a fan of the ribbon. So hopefully I can get back into, you know, my wrists have been feeling okay lately, and maybe I can get back into taking knitting with me in the car and elsewhere and not just do knitting in the evening. But we'll see. I'm not going to push myself. I'm really not. Eric knows that if his blanket isn't ready by Christmas, it'll be ready by his birthday a few months later, so not that big of a deal. Okay, and so now back to this. If you knew about my other channel, Tales from Polk County Girl, that channel is mainly about my planning systems, book reviews, and whatever other nonsense I decide to do videos on. Last year, last July, I wanted to, I was in a very specific size traveler's notebook. I was in a narrow, Chic Sparrow narrow Maverick. And that was kind of the size I was in for everything. Well, it's not easy, really. And by easy, I mean Walmart and Staples. It is not easy to find notebooks to fit the narrow size. I didn't want the bigger sizes because this standard narrow size traveler's notebook is pretty big. And I had heard about a new size called the B6. Its measurements closed were 5x7. Okay, well, I find a lot of 5x7 notebooks very cheaply at Walmart. So Chic Sparrow hadn't really started offering that size yet. Foxy Fix did, but you know, their notebooks were still about $50. Their leathers were still $50. And I wasn't even sure that I wanted this size. So what I did was I took 2 pieces of fabric. This is an upholstery sample that a friend of mine gave me. She had all these upholstery samples for some reason, and I went through them and took some, and I just love how textured this is. It's like crushed velvet. And the inside, and please just ignore the Walmart sticker on the notebook, is a nice owl flannel. And I have inside this the stiffest interfacing I could find at Joann's. So what I did was I cut everything out to be 7.5 inches this way and 11 inches this way. You know, for, you know, your hem and your edge and all that. And I'm actually going to take everything out of this to make it easier to show. And I just spent one afternoon just putting this together and playing with it. And, you know, I really liked the size. The grommets, my wonderful husband helped me put in the grommets. And he says if I ever do this again, then I have to be more careful about where I put the interfacing, because cutting through the interfacing to put these grommets in was not easy. He had a hell of a time doing it. And then I just took some thin elastic that I already had and strung it through. And there are technically 4 bands here, so that if I had 4 thinner notebooks, I could, you know, have 4 in here. But because the notebooks I have in here are thick, I string them on double-stranded, which is fine. And it has the through the back elastic, like that. Yes, the edge is messy, but it's mine. It's mine to play with, so I don't care. So what notebooks are in here? Well, one, you guys I'm pretty sure I've shown these notebooks off before. One of them is the notebook that I keep notes about Eric's blanket and how many squares I've done and all that. And that's just what that notebook is dedicated to. I'm wrestling my inserts back in at this point. That's just what is in this little notebook. And yes, I did pay 25 cents for it at Walmart. It was on the clearance rack. And don't ask me why I haven't taken the sticker off. Just haven't. So yeah. Notes about Eric's blanket. My count. I'm nowhere near done. And then I thought it would be fun, in a fit of insanity, to think back of, okay, well, if I had started this at the beginning of the year, which I didn't even know I was going to do it until February, March. So I was already down 3 months, you know, just like a tracker. And it's sad. It really is. So I've just got notes about Eric's blanket in here, and I tried figuring out some different designs. I'm not going to show you. And I need to talk to him about that too. I don't know what order he wants them in. So that's all that's in this black one. The next one, I'm pretty sure I've shown off before. It's just another little mini composition book. Yes, it says Scrappy Wrap 10 stitch on it, but that's what was in there. Now that the scrap wrap is done, I've started notes for the Boneyard shawl. Like right there, where it says row 82 is next, so I don't have to turn my little row counter. And that's just what I'll do. And notes like this are great for when I do my legacy book, because I'll look back in here and go, okay, yeah, from this date to this date, I did this part. From this date, this is when I added in this part. And I really should probably take progress pictures, but it does not, it does not photograph easily. And in the back is the mini skein 10 stitch blanket notes. And I've explained before why I have this notebook set up like this, but I'll do it again. Planner Addict and Planner Addict World YouTube famous Carrie Harling, she talks about how she splits her inserts in her smaller traveler's notebooks. And she will take a notebook, the elastic caught my ring, split it in half. The first part of her notebook will be one project. The back half of the notebook will be another project. And usually by the time she's done with each project, she's hit the middle. So she has very, very little waste. And I love that. So I've adopted that for this. And the pen I'm using is just a Bronson Flex pen. I don't know. I like the way it writes. It's almost like a marker. I don't know. I've also got like a million pens, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's how I'm keeping track of some stuff. And I just throw it all in here. That's what it looks like. Stick the pen in. And it lives on my table next to my current knitting project. I'm about at my max time limit, or else I would have ran over to grab the cotton yarn cone holder. I am almost done with the first cone of lemon drop cotton. My wrists have been feeling great lately, and I've been able to complete almost a full dishcloth at a time. I'm not pushing myself. And if you're a knitter and you experience repetitive stress injury or have carpal tunnel syndrome, please take breaks. Don't push yourself. Don't be dumb like me and, you know, aggravate your wrists doing a very heavy, bulky 10-stitch blanket. It's not worth it. So I'll keep knitting full dishcloths while I can, but we all have those nights where it's, oh, I really don't feel like working on this. I really don't feel like knitting at all. Boom. Done. No more. Okay, I'll see everybody in a couple weeks with finished objects, and I hope to have more squares to show you for Eric's blanket. I'll be traveling for about 2 weeks in October, and I hope to get a lot of knitting done then, because not just just traveling to my destination. I think I'll get a lot of knitting done. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below in the comment section. Please feel free to come over and join the Ravelry group, where I will have show notes and you can post your questions then. There is, and I know it doesn't show up in the the little podcast thing, you have to hit more, the more link up top. I do have an Ask Me thread and a Introduce Yourself thread. So I know we have one new member of the podcast and podcast group. Hi. So if you'd like to introduce yourself there, that'd be great. and I'll see everybody in a couple weeks. Bye.